Journey to God's House, Chapter 20, entitled, Missing Meetings is Wrong Unless You Work for God. So the author starts off by talking about wages and income and what the average U.S. income was compared to what the Bethelites got. And they basically lived poorer than the poor. A lot of their major expenses were taken care of, but their minor expenses, such as personal toiletries, clothing, entertainment, food that wasn't a part of the Bethel diet, travel, furniture, gifts, auto expenses, so on and so forth, were not covered, and that would have to come out of their own personal dime. So they lived on a lot of handouts. I can personally attest to that. I have a younger brother that's been there since 2001, and they don't get very much. What about retirement? Yeah, right. Retirement is the new system of things in Paradise Earth. So if you were a Bethel lifer, you would either work right through Armageddon or worked until you dropped dead, whichever came first. And I'm sure you can guess which will come first. Then he talks about context of their work schedule, and I'm going to read this from the book. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. with a 1-hour lunch. You also have to walk many blocks away to eat your lunch. Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon, working with only one Saturday off a month. Then you have walking watchman duty every 6 weeks, which means after dinner you pulled another 4-hour work shift into the night and had to be at the breakfast table the next day at 7 a.m. Dish duty about every other month. This was a couple-hour stint, and it was also after dinner to help alleviate the workload of those who were actually working in the dining room from 8 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. And that's just the workload. That's what you volunteer to work at God's house. This doesn't include getting up early in the morning, anywhere from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., so you could shower, change, put on a suit or a dress, clean up your room, and then make the breakfast table at 7 a.m. You also had your regular Jehovah's Witness duties, which means making your meetings. Back then, there were 2 midweek meetings and then your Sunday meeting. Not only did you have to make those, you had to study for them. And if you had a part, you had to prepare and give that part. And if you had any extra privileges in the congregation, such as being a ministerial servant or elder, well, that means you had to care for those extra parts. You had to be there early at the meetings, and you had to stay late. And a lot of times, it may have taken up to an hour and a half to get to your meetings. So if the meeting ended at 9:15, you would end up staying till about 10 or 10:30. And then you got an hour trek home, which would put you at home at about 11:30. And then you could finally sleep. So you're basically from 5 a.m. to midnight every day doing something for Jehovah's house. And of course, if you're a first-year Bethelite, you had to read the Bible cover to cover. So this was an intense schedule that borders on insane. And then as he was finally getting used to this intense schedule, the powers that be at Bethel dropped the bomb on them, which was overtime. Yes, when you work at God's house, you do work overtime. That meant doing another 4-hour shift Monday through Saturday after dinner for as many weeks as necessary to catch up on whatever needed to be done. So that means there was at least a 65-hour work week ahead of these Bethelites. So, being naive at the time, he asked if he could be excused from overtime when it was on a meeting night. Now, why would he do that? Well, in the real world, Jehovah's Witnesses actually expected you to quit your job if your employer tried to force you to miss too many meetings. That is not an exaggeration. You were expected to quit your job and find another if they kept you from the meetings. So naturally, and as he mentioned, being naive at the time, when his Bethel bosses asked, when his Bethel bosses asked him to work overtime, he applied the same principle to be excused from overtime. Request denied. When you work for the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, missing meetings is okay. Your own personal spiritual health evidently doesn't matter at that point. There was nobody to tell you to quit your job because they're forcing you to miss meetings, because your employer is the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and your boss is your best Bethel overseer. Pretty hypocritical, if you say. So this will conclude this chapter. Thanks for listening. Thank you for taking time to listen to my summary of the book, Journey to God's House. Post your comments, like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for the next chapter.